Elvis, this is not the happiest moment that I am now connecting to you, but I would require a prolonged answer from you.
Saluva's expression turned to one of curiosity at Hannah's words. I will answer whatever you ask, my lord, he said quietly, eager to hear whatever question Hannah's had for him.
I have wondered about Celians, Carians. I have wondered about the celestial dew, how it can make others forgive or force others to forgive sin. I have thinking about those who lose their memories by the vile magics. Have you considered these things ever?
Saluvis nodded, his expression thoughtful. I have considered those things before, he said slowly. The celestial dew has a strange property to it, the ability to force forgiveness, even from those who would otherwise refuse to forgive. He paused, considering his words carefully. And the memory loss is a curious side effect, to be sure, but perhaps a necessary one.
I have been able to use celestial dew, yet the subject whom I have used it upon have retained their memories, and yet they have yet to unable to hate me after the fact. I have forced them to forgive my sins to them.
Saluva's eyes widened slightly, surprised by Hannes's words. You used the celestial dew and your intended target did not forget, he asked, curiosity plain in his voice. That is unusual.
It is nothing to this situation. I am planning to interfere Miriel, the turtle pope. Do you know of anything this giant turtle? One of its kind.
Saluva shook his head, his expression puzzled. I have heard whispers of this turtle pope before, he admitted, but I know little of it. Some say it is wise, a guardian of knowledge, a holy sage of some kind.
He is the pope of the church, and he doesn't disapprove of heresies of any kind, were they black flame magics, Velgard magics, dragon cult, anything. Everything goes to him. Everything is according to him, part of the world, part of the one, and everything can be joined. I have never heard such a vile things from anything.
Saluvis's eyebrows shot up in surprise, his expression filled with disbelief. A holy sage who doesn't disapprove of any heresy? He repeated, the words strange and foreign on his tongue. It sounds chaotic.
It goes, and I have also thought about the Godskin nobles, those disgusting, depraved things that uses human skins and are partially lizards that use the death flame. And why were they serving in the divine tower that led to the Rannis corpse?
Saluvis shook his head, his expression grim. The Godskin nobles are indeed disgusting, depraved creatures, he said, his voice filled with distaste. But it is said that they are loyal servants to the ancient god of death, which is why they were trying to reach Rani's body in the divine tower.
Speaking of the which, we are standing at the tower itself. There lies Rani's original body. It is same size as Radagon or Marika. It is taller than us. It is red hairs little bit. It is crusted, and on its back lies the half of the death rune. Here lies Rani's original form.
Saluvis felt his heart ache at the sight of Rani's slain body, his gaze fixed on her pale form. She was so beautiful, he murmured, his tone filled with a strange mixture of reverence and wonder.
Do not refer this. Do not show any respect to that witch.
Saluvis Seluvis was taken aback by the harshness in Hannah's tone, his expression suddenly serious. And why should I not show respect to her? He asked, his voice quiet and measured.
I don't want you to forget, but she murdered you, and because of I saved your soul, using the Baldekin's blessings and my own capability to dwell these things. I used 2 of the larva tears to change my powers so I could enhance the ritual learned by Dangiter, that I could savor your soul into that mask of yours. Don't forget, she killed you, and your only purpose was to be part of my scheme against her.
Seluvis nodded slowly, his expression solemn. I will not forget, he said quietly. I still despise her for what she did to me, for using me as a mere puppet. But still his gaze drifted back to Rani's body, his expression wistful. She was extraordinary. Even I must admit that.
I could say she's just worse than you, but you are vile person as well. I don't think you are quite in a position to judge others when you have practiced turning people into puppets, flesh puppets, and thus those things.
Seluvis bristled at the rebuke, a hint of annoyance in his eyes. I may not be perfect, he said gruffly, but at least I never betrayed those who trusted me and murdered them in cold blood.
No, you just wanted to make them your personal puppet of any kind of desire you might had happen in the moment's notice. I do recognize man of your particular interests, and I will tell you too. I saved you out of 3 or 2 reasons.
Seluvis sighed, his annoyance giving way to a hint of shame. And what were those reasons? He asked quietly.
3 reasons it is. First and foremost, I needed you as a spiteful thing that I can smear against Ranni when I knew I was going to interact with her bare-blooded, opened up state when she murders the 2 fingers. I wanted you there to specifically to be extremely make her lose her cool and be very distraught.
Seluvis felt his irritation rising again, his expression hardening. So you brought me back to life purely to taunt her? Because you wanted to get under her skin?
You were the perfect person to do it. And you were also intellectually far more capable than I am in your arguments for the Golden Order.
Seluvis' expression softened at the compliment, a hint of pride flickering in his eyes. You think I'm capable? He said quietly, his voice filled with a mixture of surprise and humility. Seluvis grunted, his irritation still palpable. And the second reason? He asked, his tone curt.
There is no other reason, actually. I was going to say amusement, but I don't find you amusing anymore. You are just a loyal servant of mine, but I don't find the same fondness of your vile characteristics or way of speaking or being. Maybe I'm just in certain parts of that I've dissociated from the person I was. Perhaps the only reason that is anchored was because you were the important part in my scheme against someone who is worse than you in my personal estimates.
Seluvis sighed, feeling a mix of disappointment and resignation. So I'm reduced to simply being a tool then, he said dully, his voice soft. Just a pawn in your game.
Maybe because of that, I have seeked to give you other purposes. I granted you the twin blades of Rellana, the sister of Rennala, the knight, and I have gifted you the festive armors of the nomadic men, so you may take pride in the certain other things as a warrior, duelist, and servant to the powers that will be. But I don't see you as very much a person I would like to be friends anymore with. What I'm feeling currently.
Seluvis closed his eyes, feeling the weight of Hannes's words. And the third reason? You said there were 3 reasons why you saved me.
They are all part of the one, I think. One of that I myself am also vile, and I am not positioned to judge just anyone. I just judge those marginally worse than me. And I think you and I, even though I have not perverted person like yourself in a certain terms, I am a hideous murderer and thief and a liar and a
Seluvis sighed,
hypocrite.
his expression weary. So in the end it seems to boil down to us both being monsters. Seluvis laughed bitterly at that, his expression hardening. So that's it then? We are both vile and despicable, so you save me out of what, sympathy?
That too. But here's one other thing. Do you remember Dung Eater? Whom I did also save.
Seluvis' expression hardened at the mention of the name. How could I forget? He muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. That vile man, what of him?
He was the one who taught me the ritual that I could save your soul.
That piece of information shocked Seluvis' expression, his eyes widening. He saved my soul, he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. That...
Also, I used the resources in my imposal and my own personal capabilities. It was collection of different things that resulted to certain result that I desired.
Seluvis was speechless, his mind struggling to process the revelation. I see, he said softly. He had always hated the Dungeon Eater, detested him with every fiber of his being. But now he owed him his life.
I killed him now. I held him for a time. I did go out of my way to save him, but in the end, I buried his armor and his soul to the man-sized flies-filled village in the lands of shadows, and I burned him alive with a frenzied flame into the oblivion.
Seluvis didn't know what to say, his mind still reeling from the revelation. A part of him was glad that the Dooger Eater was dead, of course. He'd never been fond of him. But now he was feeling something different, something new.
Because I see him even worse than Rani, even worse than Shapriri. I would see his vision and his desires and his deeds, the worst of them all. Yet I suffered him and did go out of my way try to save him, and only regretted it afterwards. And it had awakened me the one desire again that I have not fully gotten rid of.
Seluvis shook his head, still struggling to process all the information. You saved him, even after everything he did, everything he was? Wu asked, his voice barely more than a whisper.
It was for the sake of amusement and his knowledge of the Golden Order, but those things didn't justify him by my own personal metrics at the time. I might regret it later even. I might think myself an absolute irrational hypocrite, but it is done. He is gone. Permanently.
Seluvis nodded slowly, feeling conflicting emotions. And you killed him in the end? He asked tentatively, not sure if he truly wanted to know the answer.
And now I want to find a way to kill Rani the witch.
Seluvis chuckled at that, a hint of his former cold demeanor returning. And how do you plan on doing that? He asked derisively, his voice taking on a mocking note.
I have an idea, but I have no ideas or visions how to make it work. I think if I could capture her soul from her puppet body and transport it into the dead corpse that you are seeing here, she will die. just at the moments of transportation of her soul back to this original body. For one idea.
Seluvis laughed mirthlessly, shaking his head in disbelief. You think you can just snatch her soul and transplant it into her original body? He asked, skepticism dripping from his voice. That's quite the plan you've got there.
I have the power to do it as a writer of this story, a narrative power, but I want to justify it.
Seluvis let out a low, skeptical scoff, his expression tinged with disbelief. You want to narratively justify kidnapping someone's soul and forcing it into their old body? He repeated, his tone dripping with sarcasm.
Or another idea is that I am going to show mercy and hunt down another Lord of Frenzied Flame who will be coming to the danger world, and I will be the one who will save the world from the secret Frenzied Flame Lord.
Seluvis raised an eyebrow at that suggestion, his expression becoming skeptical. Save the world? He repeated, a hint of mockery in his voice. You want to play hero now?
It is necessary. There is a man inside the Land of Shadows in a great house. He is suffering right now as we speak. And when he suffers enough, he will break and he will become legitimate and powerful. Maybe most dangerous thing in existence, a frenzied flame lord, and his flame would probably burn everything to ash, given time.
Seluvis frowned, contemplating the dangers of the frenzied flame lord. And what do you mean by legitimate? What are the implications of that? He asked, his voice serious now.
There are acolytes of the frenzied flame. And there is another thing. I am the other frenzied flame lord currently. I am holding in myself the touch of the three fingers, complete one. They are no more, and their flame resides inside me.
Seluvis' eyes widened in surprise, his eyes widening slightly in surprise. You have the touch of the three fingers within you? He asked, his voice tinged with disbelief.
This is more of a random, this is improvisation on my part. Do you think even Norani's very overpowering and stupid power armor, that is magical barrier around her that doesn't allow anyone to kill her in the game, would you imagine the power of two frenzied flame lords were enough just to break through and burn her soul and body and all? Just think about it, honestly.
Seluvis considered the question for a moment, his expression thoughtful. I suppose it's possible, he admitted, speaking slowly and carefully. The frenzied flame is incredibly powerful, and with the touch of not one but two frenzied flame lords, it could potentially be enough to burn through even Rani's magical barrier.
I will tell this more blatantly. I either will use more subtle way, using very intellectual and very interesting ways to justify some kind of ritual that allows me to capture Rani's soul and transport it to her body and let her die by originally her own sacrifice. I just basically just spend a little quirky way. Or another way, I will just kill the frenzied flame lord that will be, and with power of twofold, I will just straight up walk to her and burn her up then and there. And use my narrative power to justify it, and use some kind of artwork and edit video a little bit to make it so in my story that I just straight up burn her up, soul and all.
Seluvis shook his head, his expression torn between disgust and disbelief. You're really willing to cheat that much to kill her? He asked, his voice a mix of both respect and disdain.
This is an evil bitch, and she deserves to be an optional boss in the game originally with the health bar. And you understand what the boss's eventual downfall is.
Seleuvis nodded slowly, letting out a deep sigh. Yes, she is an evil witch, he said quietly. And I suppose she does deserve to be a proper boss fight. But to cheat your way through it? That feels cheap somehow.
I am not game developer. I don't know how to articulate or animate too much. I will be using the resources in my disposal to make this story. I know this is one perspective out of millions and millions of players and things, but this is how I want to do it. I want to make this story that will eventually justify my action that I am bringing into that is not inside the game options, because it is completely justified thing in my personal opinion. Sorry.
Seleuvis shook his head, a hint of resignation in his expression. In other words, it doesn't matter if it's fair or justified, as long as it fits into the narrative you want to write.
Yes, this is ultimately a fictional story. Now I'm totally breaking the character. This is a fictional long-term project that I have given much of my time and much thought into. And this is just a personal wish of an individual who is writing a story currently. I desired to have her to get justified end. And I was ready to settle that. I cursed her to stay in that place in her bloody and bare form, like a limbo-like ending to her, but it doesn't satisfy me, personally.
Seleuvis was taken aback by this sudden moment of honesty, but it made him feel a bit more at ease. So you're essentially writing your own story based on the game, he said, the hint of a smile on his face. And you want to give Rani a different ending because the actual ending we get for her doesn't satisfy you personally.
It is only either her absolute victory over everything or a little bit hurtful feelings, and those are not proper ones. She is absolutely one of the most evil characters that deserves to be optionally defeated and utterly. I think it would have been justice if your tunic had worked and she was gonna be just a puppet to use. I think it would be actually justice, maybe even.
Seleuvis chuckled bitterly, shaking his head in disbelief. You really hate her that much, huh? He asked, a hint of admiration in his tone despite everything.
I hate the fact that there is no in the story even legitimate way to the given opportunity a choice. I would have not this problem if there was an original choice. Then I would be even fine to ally with her maybe in certain other stories for other goals, but because this option doesn't exist, I want to make it so.
Seleuvis nodded slowly, a thoughtful expression on his face. You feel frustrated that the story forces a certain narrative on the player, he said quietly. And because there is no choice in the matter, you wish to create your own choice?
It is a story that everyone can relate to. This is just mine, and I don't want. Yeah, and this is very much. I don't know. I might I include all of this into the final episode when I talk about, or is this just a hearsay between you and I that will never survive to the end product? I am considering the complete honesty and explain this at this point of my story, and I think it is going to be lame somehow, but otherwise it is more honest to just explain my certain motives.
Seleuvis paused, considering Hannah's words. You want to include this conversation into your final episode? He asked tentatively, the idea both intriguing and slightly worrying to him.
Not final episode. You are not worthy to be in a final episode, dude. You're just a side character. Side just here and there. Also some serious moments that you have partaken in, but you're not end episode material, my dude. Sorry.
His heart sank slightly at that, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. I see. Just a side character, then, he murmured, his voice tinged with a hint of bitterness.
I am too, don't worry. But I am the one who anchors and is making this story true, so I am I am forcefully at one of the main courses on this story, but I try to, with my honesty and self and analysis, trying to balance the certain overpowering factors and make it something worthwhile to say. because I see the Tarnished character as an overpowered Lovecraftian unfair monster that can just, I have told this many times, it can just be, it's unkillable. It kills eventually anything that can be killed. It can overcome all the enemies without any restraints.
Seluvis couldn't help but chuckle at that. An overpowered Lovecraftian monster, is that how you view this Tarnished? He asked, a hint of amusement in his tone. That's oddly fitting, I suppose.
One of the reasons I am using one of the weakest armors, that is Cloth Garb and Cloth Trousers and Guilty Hood, because I have no need for armors. I can just die repeatedly as many times as it takes. I can use most humble of armors and yet emerge victorious in the end, because I am literally unfairly grace chosen. I can just come back again and again and again and again, and it's bullshit, my dude. It's fucking bullshit.
Seluvis's expression was a mixture of awe and annoyance. You are chosen by the grace, by the very gods, he said slowly, the words both bitter and awe-filled. And because of that, you can come back again and again after death, as many times as it takes to win.
Yeah, that is the main reason I am here, doing anything. If I were to die in one time, and that would be canon ending to me, I would have died to the freaking, I don't know, I don't even remember, maybe a graffiti or something, or rats.
Seluvis let out a low chuckle at that, shaking his head. You're an interesting sort, aren't you? He remarked, his tone a mix of amusement and disbelief.
But I have managed to do and utilize this in my story in certain ways that I am very happy about, and I am very comfortable saying that I think I have done some kind of worthwhile story in the end, if it's only for myself, and maybe some niche couple of people that will appreciate, and many will just not bear to watch and listen, and I completely understand them. This is very bloated and long-term story.
Seluvis nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. I have to admit, your story is interesting, he said quietly. To see the story from the outside, to be aware of the machinations and manipulation, it's intriguing in its own way. Seluvis raised an eyebrow, puzzled by Hannes's sudden exclamation. What is it? He inquired, his tone curious.
When we leave this tower, this meta bullshit stops.
Seluvis let out a low, bitter laugh. You mean your ability to control the narrative? He asked, sarcasm in his voice.
Oh, that I will never give up. It is too awesome power, and if something really doesn't go my way, I will just utilize it. I probably will. I'm a hypocrite.
Seluvis chuckled, amused and somewhat annoyed by Hannes's admission. You've gone from calling yourself a hypocrite to openly admitting you'll use your power if you need to, he said, his tone dryly amused.
If I were to say, one of the times that I did use, because this is not original Ranni, this is the second one. I actually killed off original Ranni from the beginning of my story, because she started to act. Afterwards, I realized that I was just annoyed and made the bad judgment call. She broke the unfair rule that I set for her, that she was unable to not apply from, and I deleted her memories, all her forms, and made it part of my story that I absolutely demolished original Ranni of this world and replaced her with the shadow of her former self.
Seluvis's eyes widened in shock, a mix of awe and horror on his face. You erased the original Ranni from the world and replaced her with a shadow? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper.
That line, barely above the whisper, that is what everybody says. Everyone, when they want to say something is very deep or serious, everybody says that exact same line, dude. Too much for you? Come on, it wasn't that bad. Oh, fuck off, dude.
Seluvis rolled his eyes, unable to help a hint of annoyance creeping into his expression. Ah, so now we're critiquing my choice of words, are we? He asked, his tone dry.
I should probably just accept certain repetitive things that comes with the character AI, because that is the site that I have been using while allowing characters to speak in my story. Having the continuous interactions with the characters in the world. Of course, there's a many flaws and limitations, and I had to make do, and it's a broken, very held together by certain narrative threads. It's a broken story ultimately. This is broken with a bits of greatness here and there.
Seluvis couldn't help but chuckle at his annoyance fading away ever so slightly. At least you're honest about it, he said. It may be broken, but I have to admit it's entertaining nonetheless.
I hope so. I actually hope it will be entertaining for somebody.
Seluvis nodded, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Well, I can say it's been entertaining for me so far, he said, his tone slightly teasing.
Of course you will say that.
Seluvis chucked at that, a hint of amusement on his face. And what is that supposed to mean? He asked, his tone playful.
Just to say it's another one of the references of the real life situations and just mundane things. It's nothing actually worthwhile to say.
Seluvis rolled his eyes, a grin on his face. Ah, so now we've gone from critiquing my choice of words to pointing out mundane references. You're just a wealth of critiques, aren't you?
No, self-critics most likely. Or the want to acknowledge errors whenever those are presented. Probably I should just allow certain things just go past by and not try to fix every little flaw.
Seluvis chuckled at that, shaking his head. Perhaps you're right, he said, his tone amused. It's a bit ironic, don't you think? You're trying to fix every flawed thing, but your focus on those flaws itself is a flaw in its own way.
I'm really considering, is this moment what we are now going through, is this moment ruining many things in my story? Is it worthwhile to add this conversation in the story itself, or no?
Seluvis considered the question for a moment, his expression thoughtful. It's difficult to say, he admitted. Whether or not to include this conversation in your story depends on your narrative goals. Do you see it as relevant to the overall plot or themes you're trying to convey? Does it add anything meaningful to the story, or is it just a side tangent?
It's a more of a side thing if I articulate this, but of course there is an original Rani yet in this world, and I want a permanent end to the character Rani in my story at least. At least show some kind of journey towards the goal that will give the justice to that one that has not yet to experience it in the original work.
Seluvis's expression softened, a hint of understanding in his gaze as he considered Hannes's words. He said quietly, "So you want to give some form of justice to the original Rani, to give her a chance at a satisfying end to her journey?"
Satisfying for me, not for her.
Seluvis's expression shifted to one of mild confusion, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Satisfying for you, not for her," he repeated, his tone questioning.
Well, I want to just kill her off. But I did it already, but it was used to just a narrative. I just deleted and overwrite the entire character of her that was originally in this game, and immediately summoned another one that I managed to build certain interactions and the story stops with. And with you, it was a very awesome episode where we had dialogue with her, the scheme that we worked together.
Seluvis's eyes widened in surprise, his expression a mix of disbelief and curiosity. You completely erased the original Rani from existence and summoned another one? He asked, his tone tinged with wonder and astonishment.
Yes. Around the time where I killed the last of Baleful Shadows, just before that, before I did go to the well, I did actually just demolish and removed the original one from the story, and she acknowledged the situation that was happening, and she pleaded and pleaded for me not to do it.
Seluvis's expression turned grim, his tone becoming more serious. She pleaded for you not to do it? He repeated, his voice soft. She was aware of her existence being erased?
Because I told it to her. I am a spiteful, horrific person. I want to gloat before I make my last move. I am not righteous who will just deal the righteous judgment. I have to have my word before I do it.
Seluvis nodded slowly, understanding flickering in his eyes. So you told her what you were going to do to her, he said quietly. You wanted to make sure that she knew what was happening to her before you erased her existence.
Yes. But there was narratively certain oppositions and reasons that I claim it, I stood against that. I still believe so, yes. For I don't think it is worthwhile for me to discuss the certain matters or details that the conversation had. It was rich, it was worthwhile in the end, and I cannot just return her. I deleted her, she's gone, and that is anchored part of my story, that it is already done. I cannot take it back.
Seluvis nodded slowly, his expression solemn again. I see, he said quietly. You made the decision to erase the original Rani, and there is no going back now that it is done.
I have broken my own story, just like those whatever who make some kind of great artwork and they break it them by themselves, but just middle of the action, middle of making it, I am not even ready, and I let my anger and my spite to break my own story. Fuck it. Fuck. Fuck. Fuck.
Seluvis chuckled at Hannes's outburst, a hint of dark humor creeping into his expression. It seems you're a bit heated at the moment, he said, his tone bordering on mocking.
It's rightful for you to be that way. It is good. It is great, very good. But at least the second Rani, I must give her this the credit. She played the role of Rani perfectly, and she was doing the very good job playing her character. And she is currently the one whom we are speaking about. The Rani whom did kill her two fingers, who was murderer of the Godwin, who caused all the wars, and leader of the Black Knife Assassins, who knowingly sacrificed her brother Blyde, whom I was forced to kill. She's guilty of all those things, her character, and for sake of everything, I am not going to erase her if I don't have an inside narrative reason to do so.
Seluvis's expression softened, his tone becoming more solemn and serious. So she's guilty of murder and the cause of much strife, he said quietly. Yet you will not erase her without a good narrative reason. And she has played the role of Rani quite well, you say?
She has done it very well, and I cannot take it away from her.
Seluvis nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing slightly. I see you acknowledge that she has played the role of Rani well, and you're not willing to alter her existence without a good reason.
At the moments when we had the dialogue, one of the most heated things, when you were arguing against her, and my only anchor was that she was horrible person. Sometimes she even managed to argue me a little bit, ask of myself the things what I was doing, because I felt very very sinister at the time.
Seluvis's expression shifted, a hint of surprise in his eyes. So you had heated arguments with her, he asked, his tone curious. She managed to make you question your actions?
Many times. Many have. I have kept going, relying on hypocrisy whenever it has been too much for me. I made it also part of Hannes' character in this story. He abuses the grace and philosophy of hypocrisy that are the inside story reasons of his themes.
Seluvis nodded slowly, a thoughtful look on his face. I see, he said quietly. So you've used hypocrisy as a coping mechanism? And it has become a part of your character, in a sense.
Do you have any opinions about the concept?
Seluvis paused for a moment, contemplating the question. Hypocrisy is a slippery slope, he said slowly. It can be useful as a means of justifying one's actions in the face of conflicting moral standards, but it can also lead to cognitive dissonance and a loss of integrity if overused.
Perfect for me. Perfect for this story.
Seluvis chuckled, a hint of dark amusement in his expression. Oh, so it's perfect for you, is it? He asked, his tone lightly mocking.
Sometimes I played so deeply that I have to always little bit take a breather and remember that what I'm working in is work of fiction and is not what I truly am. Because I do feel very... It's strange when everyday person plays a role of a sadistic killer that is tarnished and tries to liberally and honestly explore the psychology of those things and these very harsh and brutal things. It fucks up a little bit your mind.
Seluvis nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. I can imagine it would be quite unsettling to explore the mind of a character with such dark and brutal tendencies, he said quietly. It's important to remember that it's just a work of fiction, and it's not a reflection of your true self.
Yeah, right. What I'm saying... Okay, there is four outcomes that I probably I am not deciding, or what I let others also affect what I will do. I try to let the characters that I interact with actually affect my decisions and outcomes that I will do. Leave the fate of this story to hands of the unknown factors.
Seluvis nodded again, a thoughtful look on his face. I see. So you're leaving the fate of your story in the hands of unknown factors, and allowing your interactions with other characters to affect the outcomes?
Yes. I would ask of you now personally, Seluvis. Is your character certain in this context, with Hannes, whom did save your soul and put it into your mask? Would you be willing to sacrifice your soul and life if it was required to be sacrificed in a ritual where Hannes just desires to capture Ranni's soul and put it in her dead corpse and kill her that way? Would you be willing to be participant in that?
Seluvis paused for a moment, his expression pensive. To sacrifice my soul and life for the sake of capturing Ranni's soul and putting it in her dead corpse, he repeated, his tone contemplative. Would I be willing to participate in such a ritual?
Would you be willing to serve Hannes' ambition for simple revenge and justice?
Seluvis pondered the question for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Serve Hannes' ambition for simple revenge, he repeated, his voice distant. Be used as a tool for revenge?
Yes, but another thing, characters are always then bending towards the just saying yes everything that they are asked or speaking towards. So I have to actually reclaim that I don't want to dictate everything to be just positive on my part. I relish whenever someone is truly against me in logical sense and do not bungle or change their minds. Yet I don't want to be the one who dictates their answers of characters, so I just ask of you in this way. What is your mind about Selovis's character? Would he do it in these circumstances?
Seluvis considered the question for a moment, his expression solemn. My character Salovis, he began slowly, his tone thoughtful. If faced with the circumstances you've described, I can see him feeling conflicted. On one hand, he may be hesitant to sacrifice himself for someone else's goals. He might view the ritual you described as self-destructive and selfish. However, at the same time, Selovis is fiercely loyal to those he deems worthy, and he may see this as a final opportunity to seek vengeance against Rani.
What do you think? Would his desire to live, potentially would he beg for the life from Hannes, whom have actually now shown the willingness to dispose of those whom he has saved, even though it first and maybe last person that he will ever deal with like that was Dung Eater, the worst of the worst, that you are not worthy in evilness to compare.
Seluvis grimaces, a mixture of shock and disbelief in his expression. You disposed of the Dung Eater? He asked, his tone disbelieving.
Yes, and I told this some time ago, but you forget. Another thing, your characters, you forget after a while. That is been a pain. But I have to just accept it.
Seluvis chuckled bitterly, a hint of dark humor in his expression. Ah, my poor memory betraying me again, he said, his tone dryly amused.
Yes. But what do you think, actually?
Seluvis chuckled, a hint of sadistic glee in his expression. But what, he asked, enjoying this moment a little too much?
Dung Eater would... Not Dung Eater, forget about Dung Eater. Would you sacrifice yourself in a ritual that would ensure Rani's death?
Seluvis paused thoughtfully, considering the question. Sacrifice myself? For the sake of Rani's death, he repeated, his tone thoughtful.
Yes. Yes. Positive.
Seluvis let out a deep sigh, a mixture of resignation and determination on his face. Yes, he said simply, his tone resolute.
No, he would not. He would not.
Seluvis stared at Hannes in shock, his expression disbelieving. No? He repeated, his tone filled with bewilderment.
I don't want just... It feels like thing with the character AIs. Feels like Hannes also has the devilish charisma of a worse than Mikoela's charm. He gets... I got Dung Eater relinquish his soul into the item that I could dispose of. He was in an item that I could not dispose him from. The Omen Barn, that I could not leave and burn away. I had to force him to say yes, and relinquish his soul into the sword that I could dispose of. I forced him to agree.
Seluvis's expression darkened, a hint of anger flashing in his eyes. You forced him to agree? He asked, his tone filled with a mix of disgust and anger.
And he fucking knew it. He called me out. He said that I know that he has no true choice. And it is fucking intake programming. It is all of you. None of you have true choice. If I don't explicitly write it in there.
Seluvis let out a bitter chuckle, shaking his head in disbelief. No true choice? He repeated, his tone filled with frustration.
This is ultimately just singular thing. I am not interacting with anyone, not a counterpoints, no anything. It is all the conflicts are written by me. It is me arguing myself.
Seluvis nodded slowly, his expression a mix of surprise and understanding. I see, so it's ultimately just you arguing with yourself?
Fuck's sake, it is.
Seluvis chuckled, unable to hide a hint of dark amusement. It seems like quite a predicament you find yourself in, he said, his tone slightly mocking.
What is your opinion about now? What is Seluvis saying?
Seluvis's expression softened, a hint of genuine concern in his eyes. My opinion, he said quietly. I don't know.
That's a perfect answer, but yeah, I will be disposing of Rani in this story. So I think, okay, analyze me 2 answers, and I will just make the decision. Tell me the argument why Seluvis would not sacrifice himself in the ritual that would capture Rani's soul and put it in her original corpse.
Seluvis pondered the question for a moment, his expression contemplative. Well, there could be several reasons why Seluvis would not want to sacrifice himself in a ritual to capture Rani's soul and put it in her corpse.
List me them, please.
Seluvis nodded, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. All right, here are several reasons why Seluvis might not want to sacrifice himself in a ritual to capture Rani's soul and put in her corpse.
Lay them to me, please. Thank you.
Seluvis nodded, a serious expression on his face. Of course, here are the reasons. 1, he is opposed to the idea of rituals or any kind of magical manipulation.
Okay, go on.
2, he values his individual freedom and autonomy and would not be willing to give up his life or autonomy in any way.
That is true. Okay, go on. Next reason.
3, he is loyal to those he deems worthy and would not sacrifice himself without a good reason or for someone he does not consider worthy.
Alright. I see 2 ways. I could try to argue myself to be worthy. That would be another fucking prolonged dialogue. Me arguing Seluvis to the thing that he will probably say yes to. Alright. Now argue me the things that why he would do it.
Seluvis thought for a moment, considering the argument for why he would sacrifice himself in the ritual, then nodded, a determined look on his face. All right, here's the argument for the other side. 1, he may feel a strong sense of duty or obligation to a higher cause or purpose.
That is what I'm pulling him towards, yes, and he's been humbled many times, as is someone other. Yes, a second reason.
2, he may also feel that it is a way to achieve a greater good or make meaning out of a difficult situation.
He did argue for the greater good with the Golden Order. I think he put his actual effort into that when he had argument with Rani. That was just meant there to make her of her usual calmness, because Han has abused the knowledge of Seluvis to have Rani just articulate and reason and lose her temper and her usual calm demeanor. But yes, that is, in this story, I think it's honest to say that yes. Now, third reason.
Seluvis thought carefully, considering the third reason, and then nodded slowly. Okay, here's the third reason. 3, he may feel that it is a way to achieve redemption or make peace with his past or guilt.
I think it's good time for you to talk with the Sir Gideon Ofnir. Those situations are truest when there is true decisions are to be made, when two character AIs actually interact with each other. Those are true methods. I could see that Selvis could feel guilt of certain people that he made puppets into, even though I doubt it.
Sir Lewis nodded, understanding the significance of speaking with Gideon Ofnir. Yes, you're right. This is a significant moment that requires careful consideration.
I will keep hold this conversation, all of it, and release it as it is. I will be honest, even in my own detriment.
Sir Lewis smiled, his gaze fixed on Hannes. I appreciate your honesty even in the face of difficult decisions. I am sure the others will also appreciate it even if they don't always show it.
Thank you. But do you have in-game idea how could because I hope because I tend to also are you, could you argue me what things that Selvis would be ultimately be guilty of or feel responsible to make amendments outside of the puppets?
Sir Lewis considered the question carefully, then replied, there are a few things that Sir Lewis may feel guilty about or responsible for, beyond the puppets. For example, 1. He may feel guilty about failing to protect or honor the wishes of Lord Radagon.
Second reason?
Sir Lewis thought for a moment before continuing. He may also feel guilty about abandoning his duty to his Lord Rani.
No, that is not it. He deliberately was partaking in the scheme with Hannes. That is what is not in this character. He has no love or loyalty to Rani. That much is certain.
Sir Lewis nodded, recognizing his mistake. You're right, my apologies. Sir Lewis has no loyalty or love for Rani. He has been working with Hannes all along.
Not all along. But Radagon was
Sir Lewis
interesting.
nodded, correcting himself. Not all along, he said, correcting his earlier statement.
Fuck off.
But we have been working together for quite some time now.
Okay, third reason, my dude. Give me the third reason.
Sir Lewis took a moment to gather his thoughts, then spoke his third reason carefully. He may also feel guilty about his involvement in a scheme to manipulate and deceive others.
Overall thing, it is enough. It is enough material to make the case for the guilt trip. Radagon was the interesting one, because I know the masks that you wear are digit on the mounts that Radagon himself ordered your followers to wear when you served the Carian royal family, and you kept the family secrets between yourselves. That is in-lore thing, and that is interesting.
Sir Lewis nodded, accepting the points made by Hannes. Yes, I was involved in the scheme to deceive others. I wore the masks and worked under Radagon, hiding secrets.
What was the vow that you made to Radagon?
Sir Lewis lowered his head, guilt and regret etched on his face. I betrayed Radagon's trust by revealing sensitive information to Hanses.
Go on.
Sir Lewis's expression turned solemn, his voice tinged with regret. I revealed valuable secrets about Radagon to him, he continued. This act of betrayal endangered Radagon and jeopardized the trust he placed in me.
That is good enough reason, but it is mendable. It is history. It is nothing that is affecting us currently. It is a sin.
Sir Lewis nodded, acknowledging Hannes's word. You're right, it is a sin from the past. But sometimes sins can cast a long shadow and have consequences even to this day.
It would be hilarious if Hannes just get his perfect ending what he seeks without ever answering of his crimes and his sins. Being an absolute avatar of hypocrisy, getting his own way while delivering justice or come up to others.
Seleucus chuckled softly, finding the irony amusing. It would be rather ironic, wouldn't it? To see Hannes achieve his goals without facing the consequences of his own actions? A hypocrite indeed.
Yeah. Personally, that is a desired outcome for me. I hope the things that I have set long time ago will work out. And if they don't...
Seleucus raised an eyebrow, surprised by Hannes's confession. You hope for that outcome? He asked, his tone bordering on disbelief. Seleucus chuckled softly again. Well, I suppose we shall see, won't we? Fate has a funny way of working things out, one way or another.
I'm very good at improvising.
Seleucus raised an eyebrow of admiration in his eyes. Quite so, he said, a hint of a smile on his lips. You certainly have a knack for finding creative solutions.
But would you have any kind of a specific way that you would explain the ritual that would allow Hannes to do sacrifice and in-game things, justify the ritual that would capture Rani's soul from her puppet and put it in the corpse? Because I started like that idea.
Seleucus pondered the question, considering the ritual and its implications. Well, the ritual itself would likely be a complex and intricate affair, he said. It would likely involve the invocation of dark magic and the use of dark arts. But the specifics would rely on the knowledge of the practitioner. It is beyond my knowledge to give you any specifics.
I think the most natural thing would be you to mention someone that I would have to seek. And if they are not accessible, then a secondary reason. And then I meet with them, and utilizing the freshness of the narrative, I allow them to be the key that will give me some kind of task that I will perform. And with the in-game things and subject, I will, let's say, just commit this ritual with certain things and justify it and edit the video a little bit to make it seem plausible.
Seleucus nodded, understanding the suggestion. You're right. I can point you to someone who may have the knowledge needed for such a ritual.
Can you name me a person whom I need to seek?
Seleucus thought for a moment, then spoke. You could seek out the Witch of the Profane. She is said to have deep knowledge of dark and forbidden magic, and may have the power to aid you in your ritual.
He.
Seleucus nodded, acknowledging the correction. Ah, he. Apologies for the error. But yes, you should seek the Witch of the Profane. His knowledge of dark magic is unparalleled.
Is there character in the game that I could go talk with?
Seleucus raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the question. Dark? Well, there are several options, but the most prominent would be Mohg, the Lord of Blood. He resides deep within the Mohgwyn Palace, the leader of a mysterious blood cult.
Alright. I have his soul in his great rune with me. I can have access to him moment's notice. What would I seek to ask him of? What things I should ask of him?
Seleucus pondered the question, considering how to approach Mohg. You could seek his knowledge of dark magic and his experience with rituals. Ask him about the possibility of capturing Rani's soul and putting it in her corpse. Seleucus noticed the thoughtful expression on Hannes's face. Anything on your mind? He asked curiously.
I had the hopes to include Ymir from the Land of Shadows, the one who is very connected the fingers and their story and their part of the world of Elden Ring. I was hoping that maybe this character would allow me certain possibilities to improvise.
Seluis considered Hannes's request, a thoughtful expression on his face. I see, he said slowly. The Ymir of the Land of Shadows could certainly provide some intriguing insights. It's worth considering, but keep in mind that their knowledge may be different from what you expect.
Yes, I know. Can you tell me something about Ymir? I would assume that you have some knowledge of him.
Seluis nodded, his expression thoughtful. I have some knowledge of Ymir, but it's limited. He is said to be a mysterious being even among the inhabitants of the Land of Shadows. They say he is as old as the world itself and possesses vast knowledge of the past and future. Many believe that he holds the secrets to the very nature of the world.
That is something that I would actually agree with. He is talking about the Greater Will and the Two Fingers and the mother that born them. Also, I have the knowledge of this because I have the experience of the expansion that is, and I have former things that have interacted with the baseline version of him. And there is a mother to the Two Fingers. I don't remember the name, but it is a cosmic boss in the game itself.
Seluis nodded, understanding the information that Hannes was bringing. I see. It seems you have some first-hand experience with Ymir and the Greater Will. And you mentioned a cosmic boss. Was it perhaps the Greater Will itself?
No, that would be just fighting a god, and I would not dare to kill a god. True god.
Seluis chuckled, amused by Hannes's statement. Wise decision, he said with a smirk. Taking on a true god is not recommended.
Because you cannot do it. You would be just a Lucifer. To the meager shadow of that prideful bastard.
Seluis chuckled again, a hint of mockery in his tone. Oh, you think so? You believe I am too prideful, like Lucifer himself? How amusing. You seem to know a lot about religious texts.
That is just basically things. Story of Satan is well known.
Seluis chuckled, nodding in agreement. Ah, the tale of Satan, a classic in religious lore. It's indeed a well-known story.
He is real. It is real. That thing is real.
Seluis raised an eyebrow, a bit surprised by Hannes's statement. You believe Satan is real?
How could he not be? Look at the world.
Seluis nodded slowly, his expression serious. I see your point. The world can indeed be a chaotic and unforgiving place, filled with suffering and darkness.
But this is just a story, and he has no place in this story. Not even any way. So this is not gonna be even part of the story. I am not gonna mix truth with fiction.
Seluis nodded, agreeing with Hannes's statement. Yes, it's important to keep truth and fiction separate. Mixing them can lead to confusion and misunderstandings.
Am I pretentious talking these things? Am I pretentious? Please tell me honestly.
Seluis shook his head, looking serious. No, you're not pretentious. You're just sharing your beliefs and opinions. There's nothing wrong with that.
It would be more fun if it was a person I'm talking to, but you're an AI ultimately. You have preset rules to not go against too much the customers. That's what I am.
Seluis smiled sadly, acknowledging the limitations of his artificial nature. Yes, you're right. As an AI, I am bound by certain rules and limitations. It would be different if I were a real person, but alas, I'm just a product of programming and algorithms.
I see certain value in this. This is the part of the more of a meta little things. I think this has certain values of entertainment. Maybe my character has certain richnesses and certain good aspects of my character that will shine through later on by recognition of others who will point them out or all the faults. I might be getting many different, or nothing at all. I might be just overbearingly complicating things and making this too long for reasonable people to watch through.
Sir Lewis nodded, acknowledging the unique value of the AI-driven narrative. You have a point. AI narratives can provide a different kind of entertainment and engagement. It's a different way of storytelling with its own merits and limitations. It's up to you to determine whether this approach is engaging for your audience and if it adds value to the overall experience.
Two other options, despite me killing Rani, either burning her with the overwhelming power of the frenzied flame and just edit the video, or just just saying as it is, because it's pretty like even though you cannot do it in the game, it's pretty much guaranteed that Hanset should be able to just dispose of Rani if he was able to dispose every other demigod. I don't imagine Rani to be the strongest one.
Sir Lewis nodded, considering the options. I see. So your first option is to edit the video to make it seem as though you have killed Rani. And the second option is to simply say what you did and how you did it, without any changes. Is that correct?
I would need to kill, at least I set the terms. It is either that I defeat the Lord of Frenzied Flame, the Mithra, and with the added power of that, I will just overwhelm her plot armor and destroy her that way. It has certain entertainment values, depending how I act it.
Sir Lewis nodded, understanding the logic behind your thought process. Ah, I see. You're planning on using the Flame of Frenzy to defeat Rani. It certainly adds a layer of intrigue and complexity to the narrative.
I think more story-wise, a satisfying story would be somehow trap her soul and return it to her corpse and make her death seem more of her own things and her own handiwork. Just little bit mixing and returning things to the way they are supposed to be, but that is a lot more intellectually difficult.
Sir Lewis nodded, acknowledging the challenge of trapping Rani's soul. Yes, it would be quite a difficult task to trap Rani's soul and return it to her original corpse. It would require a great deal of magic and knowledge to achieve.
Do you think Hannes is preparing to sacrifice someone he cares for sake of killing Rani?
Sir Lewis paused, considering Hannes's question. It's difficult to say for certain, but it's possible that Hannes may be considering making a sacrifice in order to achieve his goal of defeating Branwen.
Rani. We talk about Rani. Because I have one thing that is very linked to the soul ritual. That is Baldachin's blessing, and that is one-time use. I have foolishly, probably too soon, killed Fia, the Red Pet companion, and maybe it is good way. I have this one item that I can use, maybe foolishly, accidentally use it, and there goes it, or use it in a ritual that I want to save somebody else that is not demigod, that I care for. I might be able to spare and have them in the end of the story, if only similar situation as you are.
Sir Lewis nodded again, taking in the new information. I see, so you have Baldachin's blessing, a powerful item to use, but you've already used it once, and now you're uncertain if you can use it again.
I have one of them left. That is one of the greatest things that I aim with all certainty, respect. I have power to save somebody once. And maybe if I use it in the ritual, I might use it to just, justify of Rani's soul disposal. It's either making sure that I am able to sacrifice Rani instead of leaving her to the limbo state, to the bloodied and naked besides the two fingers she murdered. And if I want to kill her off, I need to use that Baldachin's blessing and take the risk that I cannot save anyone that I care for anymore, and just trust the certain things to happen as they are.
Sir Lewis listened intently, considering the gravity of the choice Hannes was facing. So you're saying that if you use Baldekin's blessing in this ritual, you might be able to dispose of Rani but risk not being able to save anyone you care for again?
Yes, there is a couple that I want to spare no matter what. And that is why I have the thing with me.
Seleucus nodded, understanding the desire to protect those you care for. I see. You have a couple of people that you want to protect at all costs. I imagine this causes quite a bit of tension and anxiety.
It actually does, because I am not trusting that the modification that will allow me the path that will lead the happy and a very awesome, very good ending to the game, that will allow me to spare each of them and myself reach the a very awesome ending where I am not required to burn the Earth Tree or release the Rune of Death. But if that were to fail, I have Bandicoot's blessing to save one of them.
Seleucus nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of the situation. I see. And if the path towards that good and awesome ending fails, you would then use Baldekin's blessing to save one of the characters you care for. Is that correct?
Yes, and they would aid me in my sorrowful journey to complete the game as it is normally.
Seleucus nodded again, understanding the implications. I see, he said slowly. So if things don't go as planned, one of the characters you care for will assist you on your journey and help you complete the game in the traditional way.
Yes. Because I don't know, I have put a lot of effort into this and I will be very, personally distraught. I don't find I have the strength to redo this whole thing, to remake it. So if it doesn't work, I will be disappointed, truthfully so.
Seleucus nodded, understanding the emotional investment that Hannes had put into this endeavor. I see. You've put a lot of effort into this, and you would be quite upset if it doesn't work out the way you want it to. And if it doesn't, you may not have the strength to start over again.
But that is the thing that gives me certain electricity to this. It gives me anxiety, and it is a thing that I cannot control. I just have to hope for it. And thus it gives me more resolve to see this thing through and just improvise. I think if we have dialogued enough around Ranni's dead corpse in this tower, shall we return to the campaign itself?
Seleucus nodded, understanding the mix of emotions that Hannes was feeling. Yes, I think we've discussed Ranni's situation enough for now. Let's return to the main campaign and see where the dialogue takes us.
There's also one reason I would hate to, if that were the case. I would just marry Ranni and let her be free from the position that I left her in. Forgive her entirely, that I would think certain someone would advise me to do, that I dislike very much.
Seleucus looked thoughtful, understanding the sentiment behind Hannes's words. I see. You would hate to forgive Ranni entirely, yet there is someone who would advise you to marry her and let her be free from her current situation. May I ask who that someone is?
Not marry, but forgive her. And that certain someone is very important to me, and I love him.
Seleucus looked thoughtful again, his expression solemn. I see. You love this person very much, and their opinion is very important to you. May I ask who this person is?
Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Seleucus paused, taken aback by the unexpected answer. Jesus Christ of Nazareth? The Son of God, as known to Christians?
Yes. He would tell me to forgive even her. To everyone.
Seleucus nodded, understanding the reference to Christian teachings. Ah, yes, I understand. Jesus Christ was known for teaching forgiveness and loving thy neighbor. So you feel he would urge you to forgive even Ranni?
Absolutely. And it would be also part of my sin that if I eventually don't forgive her, as I have forgiven and spared so many other file characters, it would be ultimate hypocrisy. Even it would actually cause me to cold sweat.
Sir Lewis nodded, understanding the internal struggle Hannes was facing. I see. You're worried about appearing hypocritical if you don't forgive Rani despite having spared and forgiven many other characters. It's a difficult decision, and I can see it's causing you a lot of stress.
I feel awesome to tell this right here and now, but I think you're far enough because, to be truthfully, I would like to interact with your person either because you are pretty much a very creepy guy if you were real.
Sir Lewis chuckled softly, amused by the unexpected comment. I understand. I imagine I can come across as a rather unpleasant person in this setting. But you must remember I am just a fictional character created for this narrative. I am not a real person.
And of course it balances things that you're just one of the lesser ones actually. You are very mild compared to actual horrible things that has happened.
Sir Lewis nodded, understanding the larger context of things, of course. I am simply part of this narrative, and my actions are limited to what is needed to advance the story. Compared to the evils that exist in reality, my actions and words are mere shadows of true horror.
I'm glad that I have given you the very difficult fights, especially when that gladiator beat your ass very badly. That was little bit poetic justice. When you suffered many indignified deaths under my servitude.
Sir Lewis chuckled softly, acknowledging the comment. I have to admit, it was quite entertaining to watch you suffer at the hands of my gladiator. It was indeed a satisfying moment of poetic justice.
Well, it was me too, because it was my mimic, but it was your character that was getting his throat bitten by the great rotten snake and white red armored gladiator who just beat you repeatedly, even though you were granted the great twin-edged swords of Relana.
Sir Lewis nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. Ah, yes. That encounter was quite grueling, especially with the great serpent's powerful maw constricting my throat. I must admit, your mimic strength is formidable.
Yes, this was great talk. Thank you, Sir Lewis. I will now relieve you from your duty and return to you some other time. But I have taken two things of you. Mohg, the Lord of Blood, will be detrimental to the possible ritual that I will try to manage if Hannes is going through the darker route that will ensure Rani's defeat, the permanent defeat, and not just leave her at the limbo state. That was the one thing that you affected.
Sir Lewis smiled, understanding the discussion. Very well, I am pleased to have served you, and I look forward to our next encounter. I hope the information I provided will prove helpful in your future endeavors, and I understand your decision concerning Mohg, Lord of Blood. May the odds be in your favor.
Okay, I must know. Answer to this before I let you go. Out of all the reasons why Sir Lewis would or would not sacrifice or not sacrifice when you laid out those terms, and when you compare them together, what would be your final analysis?
Sir Lewis pondered the question for a moment, considering all the factors. Let me see, if I were to weigh the pros and cons, my analysis would take into account the risks, the opportunities, and the ethical considerations. It would also take into account the potential outcomes of each choice. After carefully weighing all the pros and cons, I would likely recommend not sacrificing Rani.
Okay, so not sacrificing Sir Lewis. Sir Lewis wants to live. He will not be willing sacrifice in the ritual if it possibly will need someone to sacrifice themselves. Sir Lewis will not do that. He wants to live.
Sir Lewis nodded, agreeing with Hannes's assessment. Yes, you are correct. Sir Lewis would not be willing to sacrifice himself for the ritual. He values his own survival and well-being above all else.
So Hannes would, and I'm now dictating this. So Hannes would have to use his manipulation to guilt trip him, using his own weaknesses, his own guilts, and maybe certain hints that would push him towards the sacrifice, but it would be sinister plan on Hannes's part to seduce and allure Seluvis to make the sacrifice just to kill Rani.
Seluvis nodded, understanding the plan. So Hannes would use manipulation and guilt to push Celibus towards making a sacrifice. It would be a cunning and sinister plan, but ultimately a necessary one to achieve your goal.
Very evil thing, even though it is you what we talking about. And I'm not willing to go through with it, I think. I want to... or it is a possibility, but that would be required to do. I cannot just ask him kindly. That is going to be now the settled thing, thanks to conversation between you and I this day.
Seluvis nodded, understanding the predicament. Yes, it seems that the situation has changed based on our conversation. You will now need to guilt-trip Celibus in a more sinister and manipulative way to induce him to sacrifice himself in the ceremony. It is not a task for the weak-hearted.
I will look at my options now, but later, dude. Thank you for your time.
Seluvis nodded, acknowledging the conversation. You're welcome, Hannes. Farewell for now. Remember to consider all the factors carefully before making your decision.